Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 3, episode 41. And we are actually going into a live deal analysis, aka a bit of a case study, because this is actually one of the deals that one of you sent me. You know who you are. And this is an opportunity that actually came across your desk, and it's based out of Ontario. So Ontario is right here in Canada. Again, for my international audiences, you understand that the majority of the materials, I'm going to use examples that are Canadian based. However, 95% of my content here is universally applicable, okay? Because again, at the end of the day, if you've been sticking with me for my Daily Dose with Tim since maybe even season 1, maybe even just this season, or maybe even just the last few episodes, you understand that myself and Trust Your Talent Academy, we first and foremost stand for financial education. And as a result, a lot of the strategies and thought processes, even when it comes to leveraging real estate investing, is all internationally applicable. And so coming back here now, let's tie everything together. I am going to be speaking to the opportunity here, okay? So listen up. Now, the clients now have been pre-approved for $650,000 in purchase price. So it's really interesting because when I actually started doing the deal analysis portion of this topic, I used $650,000. I didn't even know that this deal was basically going to be the one that you're going to send to me. Maybe that's also why it triggered you to send it to me. So at this point, option to purchase is $650,000 because I know that this is what this particular investor has actually set out to do. Financials, the term is 3 years. So it's a 3-year lease option, or RTO, as rent to own. And initial option consideration is $90,000. Oh my goodness. Initial option consideration is $90,000 right off the bat. Having just come out of the deal analysis episodes, I think it's very clear to us what happens when a deal like this happens, which is because initial option consideration directly impacts our initial investment. And what that means is the higher the initial option consideration, the lower the initial investment, which means technically speaking, overall, the higher the return on investment on this particular deal. And so next, estimated, interesting. Okay, so hang on a second. Total monthly payment. And in this particular case, because the initial option consideration is so high, there are no monthly option consideration. Okay, so I'm gonna say fair market rent, okay, is, I believe the number provided here is $4,600. The number here provided is $4,600. And so as a result, estimated monthly cash flow, let's write that down because that's important. So estimated monthly cash flow is about $800. Okay, I'm just going to build this case with everybody so that you're on the same page. And the reason why I'm not showing the email on the screen is because it's a little difficult to actually black out everything that needs to be blackened out and to protect your privacy. As I always said during my Daily Dose episodes, and this is why I think this is why a lot of you have been openly asking me questions, because everything is kept anonymous. And I always believe that if you've got a question, somebody else may have the same question too. And in this particular case, also, I know some of these companies, they spend a lot of time branding their emails, their sheets and everything. So it's just easier to do it this way. And at the same time, though, again, like I keep saying, it's about the thought process. A lot of the times what happens is, let's say I'm on a mentorship with a student of mine and an opportunity like that comes across our desk, and in between doing appointments, viewing properties, building power teams, making offers, sometimes we're also sitting at a Starbucks or at a coffee shop or restaurants analyzing deals very quickly. So this is exactly how we would do it. Most of the times, pen and maybe even a napkin. So here we go. Cash flow is about 800 a month estimated. And so estimated capital requirement. Ooh, I like how they put this, because the way I'm interpreting it is that the initial investment now is 60,000. Okay, is 60,000. And ooh, return on investment estimated. Okay, estimated. Remember, I don't like the G word, and the G word is guaranteed, because investing inherently has risk. All we're doing here is we are learning how to take calculated risk. And if you remember the previous episode, that's exactly how we actually determine calculated risk, is what's the best case scenario and what's the worst case scenario, and how do we go about making business decisions that are still acceptable and tolerable to us. And the other thing is, this is also why wholesale and assignment is such an amazing exit strategy for all of us investors as well. And the fact that we build that into every single deal we go into, because if you don't like the worst case scenario, I don't know why you wouldn't. However, some people don't. And so they might look at the numbers of cash flow of $643 a month, return on investment of 26.62%, and total profit over 3 years of 96,000, and go, you know what, pass, because they might have another deal on the table that may be doing a little bit better than this one. I don't know. Again, everybody is different, and this is why it has never been one size fits all. Financial education, leveraging real estate is not about buying multifamilies. It's not about buying single families. It's not even about doing lease option deals. It is very much about how it contributes to your bank account and not your ego. Okay. And so coming back here now, with this particular example, the ROI right now in this email, at least the way they presented it, is 74%. 74% for 3 years. So this is just about, I'm gonna type this out here. Okay. Actually, no, hang on a second. It says estimated ROI, 74% annual return for 3 years. It's actually on a per year basis. Interesting. Okay. I like this. Okay. Even better. I don't have to do any more math. Every single year is 74% return on investment. So interesting. Interesting. Okay. It's an amazing, amazing return that goes without saying, because if it's a 3-year deal, okay, I want to make sure everybody can see this properly. If it's a 3-year deal and every year is already 74% return on investment, what does that mean? Multiply it by 3, and that's 222%. Yeah, I can still do math like that. Simple multiplication. 3 times 74 is 222% of the entire deal. Why? Again, simply because of the fact that initial option consideration is such a huge amount. Okay, so here are the questions in terms of due diligence that I would actually ask right off the bat. I want to remind everybody, okay, of what we discussed in episode 32. Who actually needs lease options? Okay, who are your potential tenant buyers? Income, credit, down payment. If they are missing one or more, or all 3 criteria in this particular case. So first thing first, I would always want to know, where did the $90,000 come from? Where did the initial option consideration money come from? The reason why I am asking you that, to clarify that, is simply because the fact that ideally, when I'm doing a deal, would prefer that all of the initial option consideration comes from the tenant buyer's personal resources, meaning there's no gifted money, there's no borrow money. They have worked hard to save up this money in the hopes of getting into home ownerships. Okay, it means skin in the game. I want to know that. Why? Because we've been through quite a few scenarios, especially in our earlier days. Remember, this can be quite an emotional strategy, to be really honest. And as I said, one of the first rules is let the numbers do the talking. However, with this particular strategy, sometimes it's a little difficult because one of the biggest reasons why I understand a lot of us professional investors leverage this strategies because it's really win, 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 win. And also it is a feel good strategy when you can help somebody gain access to home ownership when it's getting increasingly difficult in most developed countries. Okay. And so with that said, $90,000, I want it to be personal resources. Okay. Personal resources. And I usually prefer it to be cash. Now, when you guys go into the advanced course for lease options with Trust Your Talent, you will learn that sometimes we will make certain exceptions. However, 99.9% of the times, and my business decision is I would like this to be cash. Why? Because even if they have other forms of money that will contribute towards their total option consideration at the end of the day. That could be maybe a GIC. In the US, you call it CD, certificates of deposit. Here, we just call it a GIC. It's a guaranteed investment certificate, which if you read the fine print, actually not guaranteed. Regardless, the point is most of the GICs in Canada and like many other countries, Australia, New Zealand, UK, I mean, these are the 5 countries that really I mostly speak to because you are my target audience. However, a lot of you that might be watching it from Asia, somewhere else, you also have your own equivalents as well. The point is, the GICs, guarantee investment certificates, they're not guaranteed, first of all. Second of all, if you actually get into one of those, chances are you may have chosen a certificate that is not redeemable, meaning it's not liquid. If you actually go into a 3-year term and you want to cash it out in less than 3 years, that means you actually pay a penalty and not just and usually you forego the higher interest rate that you thought you were going to earn. Okay. And so as a result, most people will actually keep it in there. And in Canada and the US, and some of the other countries that I mentioned, you may have different programs that the governments have set out to help you purchase your principal residence. And so in Canada, for example, you can leverage your registered retirement savings plan money to do it. You may also have tax-free savings accounts. And lately, especially this year, as of April 2023, Canada now also has a home buyers tax savings program or savings program. Okay. And so with that said, there's so many different programs. Now, the point is people put money aside. And by people in this particular case, I am speaking to our tenant buyers. It's just that I will share this with you. A lot of the times, these tenant buyers, when economic situations turn on them, like it has the last year or so here at this point, they will start to dip into that money. And this is what I mean by based on personal experiences from the past. Initially, I want it to be all personal resources. And regardless of what additional savings money that they might come into at time of closing, meaning 3 years from now, okay? Meaning 3 years from now. That, in my opinion, is all bonus. That is all additional. Regardless, I will always build them up to a total option consideration of 10%. So in this case, once again, it's 65,000. Okay. As you can see now, initial already exceeds that. And now it makes sense. The fact that in the email, it says that fair market rent is $4,600 and there is no monthly option consideration. So it makes complete sense. So in this particular case, if you take out your calculator, 90,000 divided by 650,000, you know that your tenant buyers are already coming in with 13.8%. 13.8% of total option consideration that will turn into their final down payment when they're qualified and choose to exercise their option to purchase. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? And the other thing is, why are they not able to qualify for a mortgage right now? Well, again, let's go back here. It seems like they've actually satisfied this criteria quite well, okay, in this particular case, which means most of the questions probably should be targeted towards income and credit score and credit history, okay? And so what that means is from an income standpoint, I want to know, what do they currently do? How long have they been doing it for? And just like income properties, we would like to vet for about 2 years of history, of income history, so that we understand where the money's coming from and if they're going to be able to continue to afford the payment on a monthly basis. And so income and credit being, in my opinion, probably the biggest challenge at this point. In the email, it didn't quite mention that. So I would actually ask for a thorough credit report. And again, in Canada and the US, there are lots and lots of ways for our tenant buyers to pull their own credit report without hurting their own credit score, okay? It's what we call a soft hit. It's a soft hit. And once again, I've actually made a few episodes about how credit scores are created. And the funny thing is, Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand, UK, all these 5 countries that I know, all these criteria are actually pretty much the same, okay? Every single one of these countries that I've been to, they've all shared with me that they're pretty much the same. So I will share the episode that I've done on credit scores back in season 2. I'll tag that in the comment section. And I know a lot of you guys, Canadians especially, this is still a long weekend for you. And some of you have already texted me and go, I spent half day yesterday just catching up on my daily dose with Tim. So I appreciate you. And I love the fact that you're kind of Netflix and chilling. And at the same time, you're watching something productive and educational. And coming back here, okay, I would definitely ask them to actually pull their own credit report. So the biggest ones in Canada are TransUnion and Equifax. Most of us actually use Equifax. Most of the big banks use Equifax. So Equifax.ca. And I know in the US, if this is where you are, Experian is actually another one as well. And there are a lot of sub websites that are not exactly credit bureaus, but they have joint relationships with them. And some of the big banks actually have these relationships with them as well. So if you bank with one of them, or again, in this case, your tenant buyers potentially bank with one of them, you can advise them to actually pull their credit report, oftentimes for free. However, if it's not for free, typically speaking, it doesn't matter where you go. It's anywhere between $25.95 these days, Canadian dollars, all the way to about $29.95. So some of them will break it up into score and report. Some of them will just give you both at the same time when you pay for it. And it's actually very quick. And the other thing also, though, is that we find that if our tenant buyers are not willing to spend, let's say $30 to pull their own credit report to see if they will qualify, and for you to help them, give some pointers, even if they don't pre-qualify for a lease option program, they're probably not the best tenant buyers. They're probably not the best quality tenant buyers that you want to work with. Remember, I always like to say that this is kind of getting into a relationship, except that you already know the end date. There is an expiration date when you do it right and when you do it well for everybody. However, the point is, and the truth is, you still got to be able to work with them, even manage them while helping them during the next 2 to 4 years time. Okay, so income and credit, I would like to know what's happened to them that nobody, given their current criteria, the fact that they have $90,000 and can afford $4,600 on a monthly basis, and why they actually need this program. Okay, and here is the thing. I'm very, very flat out and direct with my tenant buyers. Usually when I see a case like this, I would actually let them know, you know what? Based on your qualification, I don't want to overpromise right now. However, I'm going to work with my team, and this would be actually a power team member, i.e. my mortgage broker. And I know the mortgage brokers that we work with are very knowledgeable, have great access to lending options and to many, many different lenders. More often than not, these tenant buyers could potentially actually just go through and qualify for a mortgage by a non-monoline lender. Maybe they'll go with what we call a B lender, okay? A B lender, not an A lender, a B lender, which usually means that the rate's a little higher. However, they might be able to actually put them into something, okay? They might be able to actually put them into something. And I know at this point, some of you are going, whoa, 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 hang on a second. The numbers are pretty good still, regardless. Why would you just let that go? Well, remember, we're in it for the long game. I'm not going to let greed or anything get in the way, because a lot of my mortgage brokers, they've also supported me over the years. They've vetted a lot of people, and they have not gotten paid until the tenant buyers are actually ready to pull the trigger at the end. And sometimes, for whatever reason, they may not pull the trigger at the end either. And like I said, it's not 100% guarantee. However, when you do it right, personally, our entire portfolio after nearly 13 years, our success rate when it comes to lease options is sitting at just shy of 83% right now. Okay. And so everybody's a little different. To my understanding, or at least based on what a lot of people are telling me, the success rate for most lease options is under 50%. And to me, that is completely unacceptable. And yet I understand how it happens. And I pretty much cover that throughout the entire time we've been discussing lease options at this point. And so coming back here, like I said, I would actually, if my mortgage broker can actually qualify them for a B lender in this particular case, I would actually just say, go for it. Because the point is, remember, what is the end goal in mind? The end goal is to help the tenant buyers become homeowners. And if they can actually skip this step, as I mentioned before, a lease option is not something that your tenant buyers leverages to buy their forever or final or dream homes with. It is a stepping stone. If they can skip over the stepping stone and get to the destination already, why are we forcing them to go into a lease options when they don't have to? Okay. And the other thing is, every time we've done this, the tenant buyers actually turn around, sometimes a day later, sometimes a few weeks later. I've had an incident where it was about a year and a half later. He calls me and he goes, I actually got a friend who's very in similar situation. I don't know if he's going to qualify like I did with a B lender. Now they're learning the lingo, or he can go through a lease option. However, I thought of you first because of the way you and your team was able to help me. And so I really like that, because remember, we are in it for the longevity. Building a profitable and sustainable portfolio, it does take time. However, again, that's why I focus on sustainability. Okay, please don't be one of those people that come and go just because maybe a deal looks great and you pounce on it and then that's all you do. That's not what this is about. Remember, okay, we want to make sure that we change your financial future for the better and for good, meaning forever. And so on that note, this is part one of this case study. What I'm going to do is I'm also going to input all the numbers into a spreadsheet, and then we can also go into discussing the various scenarios. And you, I'm not going to name names, whoever sent me this deal, please expect a message from me. And I'm going to ask you some questions. Perhaps, hopefully, if the time permits, you can actually bounce it back to the people who share this deal with you in case we need a little bit more context and a little bit more background on the tenant buyers. So on that note, my Canadian friends, I hope you're still enjoying your Canada Day long weekend. And everybody else, I'm back with a new 5-episode train this entire week. And I understand in a couple of days, it's going to be July 4th as well. Actually, no, tomorrow is going to be July 4th. And so maybe you'll be just catching up with the recording. Whatever the case may be, I'm happy to be back, and welcome back to season 3, episode 41 of my Daily Dose with Tim. On that note, enjoy the rest of your day. Have an amazing week ahead and live well, everybody.